It's surprising we haven't gotten to psychoanalysis by now. Psychoanalysis is a philosophical and therapeutic system that is the foundation of contemporary psychology, set up by the founder Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud argued that the real problem in life is that people suffer, and they suffer hysterically without reason because of their unconscious desires that they cannot face. He posits psychoanalysis, a study of the psyche, the soul, the psyche, and a way of analyzing people so they can express their unconscious desires. And by expressing the desires that they cannot name through speaking them out loud, they no longer will suffer. I have a lot of fondness for Freud. He is very sober in the sense that he does not aim to make people happy. He takes people who are hysterically, miserably suffering and turns them into regular old unhappy people. I mean, in the depths of my existential dread, I'd just be happy to be a regular old unhappy person. So I have a fondness for Freud, as does Favre here. So Freud and classical psychoanalysis posits an idea of a death wish or a death instinct. And Favre notices these elements of the death wish in these witchcraft dynamics. When we're talking about the death wish, we mean the death drive, the death instinct. I don't think wish is the right word. It's a drive. It's a compulsion toward death. This is called Thanatos. So the Thanatos drive as opposed to the Eros drive. So the death wish is a death drive. Freud argues that there are two main drives or instincts in the human being, death and Eros. Not Eros as in erotic magic like we saw before. Eros is creative. It's life energy. It's about flourishing and reproduction. Death, or the Thanatos energy, is about self-destruction, destructing others, doing repetitive hostile rituals and aggressions. These are normal. These aren't bad things. The death instinct is not pathological. I mean, we tend to think that a healthy person should always be thinking good thoughts. But in reality, part of being human is being destructive and being self-destructive. Now, we find that actual people, I know I do, operate out of a desire for destruction and self-destruction. We're almost seduced by it. Why do people drink so much? Why do people smoke so much? Why do you stay in bad relationships? Why do you do destructive things? Why do you secretly yearn for your own self-destruction, college students? We do things that don't make sense if we assume that our only impulse is to be productive or flourish. We secretly desire to destroy things, even to destroy ourselves. So we're not as always as positive as we think. And witchcraft and this witchcraft system acts out these death drives and expresses them very clearly. So right off the bat, you want to destroy the witch. There's a destructive quality to destroying the witch if you are bewitched. If you are bewitched, you must want the witch dead. That's it. There's no other result. The witch is going to kill you, or you're going to kill the witch, or find an unwitcher to kill the witch. You got to kill the witch. There's no way out. It's bloodlust. So the boy who dies because he rejected witchcraft, he's not mourned by Jean Baban and their family. They're like, gotta die. He was bound to die. He's going to be a witch living without pulling vital fluid from other people. Obviously, his family is going to pull vital fluid from him. They're going to kill him. There's this story that the Unwitcher tells about how she has this friend that she's had forever. They've been very close. Suddenly, she realizes that the woman is jealous in some way, and she's pronounced a witch. Immediately, she hates that person. So even if you have a close friend, and you start being bewitched, and someone says, you're bewitched by that person, suddenly this person that you might have known your whole life, suddenly you hate them. You not only hate them, but you want them to die. You immediately wish them dead. And if she dies, you're happy. Jealousy might cause the witch to bewitch a person. But being bewitched causes someone to want someone else dead. Death is the only thing that resolves that jealousy. So someone is jealous, and that caused them to bewitch you. And to punish them for their jealousy, which they might actually be, as opposed to speculative witchcraft, you wish them dead. Someone is jealous of you, you wish them dead. This is an ugly system. It's anti-individual. It's probably anti-social, but it does make sense. It does make sense of a world. It's messy. It's confusing. So Favrasada starts to realize that the system works, and she realizes that it works similar to war and violence and conflict. She notes that when a modern person is put into a situation in which they have to kill or die, a zero-sum game. I live, you die. That's war. People are not used to that, but you can get used to it. You can learn to it pretty quickly. I think there's a famous musician named Henry Rollins who argued that when he was living as kind of a tough guy punk in the hardcore era in the early 80s, he said, I very quickly found I could be capably violent. You can find that you can be capably violent quickly when it's between you and someone else. When the sum of the game is you win or you get beaten. You kill someone or you are killed. That's the essence of the zero-sum game. And this is a zero-sum game. So you can be put into a situation of war and be a normal, modern, rational person, but you adapt. You can become a killer and a soldier. The witch system shows a way to live your life better when you are afflicted by the death of another person. All of the biological misfortunes, all of the horrible things that happen to you are given a reason. You've been bewitched, and they're given a trajectory, which is your own death, which is desired by that witch. From page 124, the repetition of biological misfortunes are experienced as the path to one's own death. The chaos of life is given meaning, and there's a way to stop it. If only you could kill the person who's bewitched you, you would stop suffering. And there's someone who can do it. An unwitcher, an avenger, someone who can do evil for evil, go body to body, heart to heart, and destroy the one who is afflicting you. You can see the path that is inevitable to your own death, but you can also see that the unwitcher can stop it by killing the witch. The more Favrasada hears about witchcraft, the more she realizes that Pierre's fate was obvious and inevitable. Because of the zero-sum system, if he rejected being a witch, then he had to be a victim. And if he was a victim, his very family needed to drain him and kill him. There's no way out. There's no way for him to bring in new energy. It's a zero-sum game. Whatever energy he has to be taken by the witches because he's rejected being a witch. And if he's not a witch, he's going to be a victim. You're either a victim or you're a predator. You're a lion or you're a gazelle. And to a witch, if your kid turns out to be a gazelle, you're going to eat him. It's a rough life. Favrasada finds this incredible table that she establishes on page 123 to 126. And she realizes that the way things happen and the way she interprets them in a way that leads to those very ideas of interpretation coming true. The way that she interprets the world, and people interpret the world according to witchcraft, fulfills the death drives, realizes the death drives. So when you believe that you are suffering because someone is wishing you harm and causing you suffering, and then they die, you're happy about it. Death drive, death drive, death drive. How can you be happy when you've caused someone to die through your own magic rituals or through hiring someone to do magic rituals against them? Why? Because otherwise you would die. They die, so you don't die. She realizes that she was hurt in a car wreck, which leads to her unwitcher saying that the witch who bewitched her wanted her to die in a car wreck. Favrasada is not willing to start doing the rituals to kill her witch. She's not willing to step into that double and into that zero-sum game. And maybe that's what kind of screws her over in all this. Suddenly other events happen around her, and other witches are named and afflicting. They're said to afflict all these other people. The Unwitcher's like, look, that one hurts that one hurts that one. And then the Unwitcher starts doing these rituals, and those people she accuses of being witches start getting sick and dying and having horrible things happen to them. Eventually, Madame Flora, her Unwitcher, Favrasada's Unwitcher, says that her own witch was jealous. And then that very witch was killed in a car wreck, and she's happy about it. Now, Favrasada knows her witch well. And she knows that that witch has not been doing any witchcraft. She hasn't been doing anything that would make Favrasada die. Favrasada knows that she hasn't done any rituals. Yet, with all these accusations and death wishes and car accidents going on, she wonders, am I also going to die in a car wreck? Is that my fate? She can't escape thinking about all this as a chain that ultimately will lead, a chain of causation that will ultimately lead to her own death in a car crash. The witchcraft system is not just about a desire and a drive to destroy others. It also is a way to fantasize about destroying oneself, about harming oneself, about annihilating oneself. And honestly, in my heart of hearts, when I'm suffering, when I'm in pain, when I'm in misery, existential or physical or otherwise, annihilation sounds pretty good. I had trigeminal neuralgia about a year ago, which is said to be one of the exquisite pains a person can feel. This nerve that runs from here to here to here becomes inflamed. And for me, it started feeling like I'd been punched in the face, a feeling I'm comfortable with. It's happened a lot of times. But it didn't feel like getting punched in the face, because getting punched in the face really hurts, and then it dulls into a dull throb. This was like a dull throb that got worse and worse until it felt like electric shocks running through my whole head. And the only thing that would stop it was to sip ice cold water. For 45 seconds after I'd sipped that water, it would go away and then come screaming back. And I remember being in the hospital. I drove myself in the way, sipping ice water the whole way. I was in the emergency room, and they diagnosed me pretty quickly. It was a pretty classic sight of it, even though they had no way to really treat it other than to give me Oxycontin that didn't work. And then finally, the next morning, I was able to get an anti-neuralgic sort of thing that actually did work. But I remember thinking, if I am going to continue like this, if they cannot stop this, I don't want to live anymore. I don't. Let the awareness stop. My very consciousness as a human being with a name was taken from me. And in those points of extreme pain, it makes sense to fantasize about being gone, about being done. Jean Babon is constantly stuck in this witchcraft system. He thinks it's real. He thinks it's not real. He doesn't know, but he knows. And his thinking about witchcraft destroys him. Maybe he has a will to death himself, and he finds a way to act that will out in drunkenness and his malaise that is coded as witchcraft. All of this witchcraft system keeps him from seeing his own pain clearly, but it gives it a reason for it. He can never see his own role in his own pain, but perhaps he never really was all that important. Maybe he never wanted to see his own role. Maybe he always wanted self-destruction. And that's a wish he can't say. That's a wish he can't say out loud. That's a death wish. The wish for destruction. And that's something that the witchcraft thing does express. It expresses unconscious desires. We can't quite say out loud. Now, that's the thinking from classical psychoanalysis and some of my riffs on it. Self-annihilation is bad. Now, the trick is these are not ways to be. These are ways to understand life, to think through the pains and the problems, and think about somehow these are expressed in our systems of magic. And like I keep saying, it's important to imagine magic, but it's also really important to think through the social situations that cause people to turn to magic. All right. Take a break. We'll finish it.